Hey everybody, how you doing? My name is Chris Steinke, and I am an AI specialist with ServiceNow. I work for a team called Intelligent Automation. We support a lot of the pro products, machine learning, performance analytics, and now also Now Assist, the Skill Kit, and of course our autonomous agentic AI solutions. I'm a huge fan of the Skill Kit. There's so much potential and possibility, and so many things you can do. And I had resolved to create some articles, to post some blog posts about things that you can do. But I never really put it together. So then I just decided I'm just going to make a video because I'll just record myself doing it. It'll be almost as valuable. Maybe I'll even take the transcript and use AI to generate the article. But I figure it'll be much quicker and easier. So I am going to share my screen, and today we're going to do some live configuration. It's going to be fun. It's going to be messy. It's going to be hopefully I won't make too much of an idiot of myself. I'm just going to try to do one cut without any without any breaks, as long as I don't say we're back. Yeah. So the first thing you need to do is come up with a plan. Well, maybe a use case first, right? So my use case in this situation is I want to create a change backup plan. If you've worked with change management, there's all these different fields: implementation plan, backup plan, risk and impact analysis, and it's a lot of text that needs to be entered. So it's a perfect opportunity to use our agentic AI and our capabilities in order to fill that information in and handle it for you. But we need to come up with a plan first, right? So I'm using this mind mapping application. It's personally, it's one of my favorites. And I do the same thing if I'm creating a performance analytics content, if I'm creating a catalog item, if I'm creating everything. There's lots of different data elements in ServiceNow when you're building. And if you don't have a plan, if you don't create notes, then you're gonna waste a lot of time going back and forth. So the first thing is, again, I've got this idea of creating a backup plan for my change tickets. So I'm going to have my skill kit, which is going to perform the primary action. So there's a couple things that I want it to do. I want it to pull in the details, the existing details of the change ticket. Then I wanted to consider some policy, right? I wanted to consider some rules around how that should be done. Our backup plan should have some sort of formatting and things like that. Then I want to have that output the backup plan, write that backup plan to the backup plan field, save the record, and then I want to trigger it with a button on the change form. Now, oftentimes we'll term this operationalizing, right? How you are making it operational, how you're making it happen. And I could have this happen off of a button like I'm doing, but I could also have this happen when I change phases, maybe before it goes to approval. Or I could have it do, once the justification has been entered, right? So we can trigger this off of any type of field or entry, a variety of different ways, but I'm going to trigger it by a button on the change form. That is the quickest and easiest way to trigger a skill kit. Now, to do this, I'm going to need some information. I'm going to need to bring in fields from the change record. So that's going to be things like my change number. It's going to be my plan start. It's going to be any other fields that are available. I'm going to try to bring in as many fields as relevant and available and that we can use. Then I'm also going to have sort of controls around that output. So I mentioned up here, we want to have the policy. We want to consider the specific format of the backup plan to do it. So here I've got my backup plan format and policy, and I just made some up. I used an LLM to generate a sample of what a backup plan policy could be. Here it is. I've entered it in. Again, this could be anything. You could put in any text here. This is just something that I've established. Then I also need to think about, what do I do if there isn't enough information available? Because LLMs will generate text. They will generate text, and they'll make it up if they don't have it. So it's important that we need to sort of put in kind of catches into the prompting, so that if it doesn't have enough information, or if there's other key information that it doesn't have related to the backout, maybe it's missing the configuration item or something like that, then we don't want it to process that. And then last but not least, we want to validate that the plan aligns with the technology, if not respond with not enough information. So again, if you're thinking about it, as we're coming up with this backup plan, in order to make sure that the system is doing it correctly, we're going to add another check at the end just to make sure that it aligns with the existing technology. Okay, so now we've got our plan. Now we need to figure out what we're going to do. and what our data is and how we're going to bring it together. So I've got my instance over here. And now is the slightly uncomfortable part, because we need to figure out your data. And data can be messy, and data is not very fun, but it's something that's really important that we need to pay attention to and that we need to get into. So I put change space there. So it didn't find change request. Watch this. I'll put, there we go. And now I can cycle back and I can open up my change ticket. Why are we looking at the data? Because we need to understand what fields we can process and send to the LLM in order to get this information we need out of it. Right. So here I've got a different change tickets within the system. You can see some different fields are available. Now I went into my personalized list, and because I want to know about implementation plans and justifications and risk analysis and backout plans and things like that, I can add them to my list just to make it easier to scan the data. And, again, the data is uncomfortable, right? But you need to go ahead, you need to sit in your data, you need to look in your data, you need to accept what your data is today. And your data, it tells a story, right? It might be a story that's years long about things that people have tried and didn't try, and half spent implementations and things that worked, and the things that are helping you, or things that maybe everyone's forgotten about. But you need to understand your data in order to use the processing of the LLM at the most advantage. So what are we looking for right now? I'm looking for fields that we can use, that we can send to the LLM for processing, right? So obviously I want to send over the number. And when I right click on this, you can see I see number. So now, again, this is really pedantic, but watch what we do here. Ready? So I've got my fields. I literally number. Then I come in here, requested by. The fields are not always going to be, the actual values are not always going to be obvious, right? We've got what's called a label, requested by, and then in this case, we've got requested underscore by as the value. Right. So again, I'm trying to figure out what all of these individual fields are. Category. And I'm just going to go through and I'm going to continue to make a list of all of the fields that we potentially want to bring over. Category. Now, see, we've got service and service offering. Those ones might be very valuable. Those might be useful for us to bring over. But watch what happens. See, I can see it's not been entered here. I'm gonna go ahead and I'm gonna go back to my list, and I'm gonna add that service and service offering up here. Why am I doing that? I'm gonna validate whether we have any data in those fields. This is really important as you're going through these. There's no point in sending the fields and the data over to the LLM if we don't have any entries. And sure enough, you can see here in my service and service offering, okay, so I do have some that have a service and service offering, but it's not consistent, right? So maybe I want to see just how many are missing. I'll go ahead and sort again. Now watch this little trick. I'll click on here and I'll say show matching. So we can see 3,000 records do not have a service offering, while only a couple hundred records do. So probably not a good choice for us to use in determining kind of what the fields are and what the values are that we want to have. So service and service offering, I'm not going to do those. I'll go ahead and pick another change. Again, I'm going to look at these. This is a lot of test data, by the way. This is one of our demo instances. It's got a lot of test data. It's not always going to be consistent. But here, I'm just going to continue this. Bear with me. Okay, so I figured out all these great fields that we can bring in and we can use with our LLM. Now, you do also have the ability to bring in related list items. So you could use a flow or some other capability. Maybe you want to bring in the incidents that originally caused it or some other. Again, any of these data fields, any fields related to the change are available to you, and you can bring those over and use those in processing. So now that I've got my information, I know what I want to do. I know the fields I want to deal with. I am going to go ahead and I am going to create my Now Assist Skill Kit skill. All right, so I'm going to come over here to the skill kits. Now, I haven't used this in a couple days. I don't know if all the plugins are updated because we just recently had some patching and some releases. So again, but we're doing this live, folks. This is really happening here, flying by the seat of our pants. Hopefully, it won't be a mess. So, create Backout Plan. You are a change coordination bot, robot, or you can call it. So one of the weird things is if you tell it it's a person, it'll tend to be more polite. If you tell it to be a robot, it'll tend to be shorter and more succinct in a lot of its responses. So it does actually impact how you do it, but you know, you can play around with it and see what's what. So I'll say you are a change coordination analyst. You will be presented with various fields of a change record. You will process the fields and use them to create a change backout plan. The backout plan will be created in accordance with, I don't even know, accordance, we'll see what happens. Accordance with the presented change backout plan document policy. After creating the plan, you will validate that the plan is aligned with the original technology. All right, and then I am going to use this description. All right, so this is the big red easy button, folks, as you are going to see in a second here. So clicking this down, hitting the create skill button. Come on, here we go. We're creating LLM magic. Little pause. Magic takes time. Little longer pause. All right, here we go, and look and see what we have. So this is the skill kit skill. So this is really important because these skills are agents, right? They are instructive, informative. They're helpful agents. They aren't autonomous agents, but these are the building blocks of autonomous agents. So thinking down the future, if you want to create an agent that goes through and fills out key fields and enters in key information or validates key information from different change tickets, you would create a series of these skills, and then you would tie them together within the agentic studio, and then you would have an autonomous agent that would go out and do this. So again, very important. These are the building blocks of autonomous agents. So over here on the left, you can see where we have our different skill inputs, right? So our input in this case is going to be our change record. So I can come over here, I say record, table is going to be change request. Yeah, yep. And that will be mandatory, and we can just pick any change record. We don't really care. We add the skill input. All right. Now, the output, don't worry about it. We're going to grab the output. We're going to format it. We're going to do some stuff with it. It'll be magic. It'll be really easy. The tools we also do not need to use at this time. Now, the tools are important to bring in any information or data that you don't have when you're initiating the skill. So what could that be? Well, if this had a series of change tasks associated with it, then I would have to use a flow action or a subflow to go down to those change tasks and pull out the relevant details and pass it back to the model. Another example, I've created a skill for assignment groups where it looks through all of their incidents and all their surveys and sort of gives them a sort of a performance summary for the previous week. Again, we use a subflow to grab that data, bring it back in and put it here. In this case, I'm just using something really easy so we can see as an example. So over here, you've got all of our fields. Now, this prompt was created and written by Now LLM. and this is incredibly valuable. If you don't create the prompt there, you can also use this prompt assistance button here. You can type something in and you can generate the prompt over here. It's going to be the best, the absolute best starting point for you. So you can see it's taken the information that I provided and it's sort of summarized it, and it's broken it down into different aspects. And this sort of stuff, breaking out a role, breaking out context, breaking out instructions, this has been shown to dramatically increase the effectiveness of the LLM. So just doing all sorts of things to make it more productive, make it easier to and better to work. And what you can see is that it did actually input a number of the potential fields for me here. Now you see it didn't input any fields. It just provided from, again, we have a context-aware model. So it's just providing information that is related to the, what it knows about change processing and things like that. So down here in the instructions, you can see it's, again, translated the information. So based on it, and I just want to say based on the change information, because I don't want it to just look at the rollout plan. Identify the steps required to implement the change. Using the backout policy, create a backout plan that outlines the steps. Yep, perfect. Validate that the backout plan aligns with the original technology. Okay, so here, now we need to start inputting information, right? So we should be good. Oh, and then the original technology, don't have enough information to create a plan, then return information. Cool. So the output should be clear and concise backout plan that outlines the steps to reverse the change if necessary. Details how to restore. Yep. Okay. Yep. Good. Took all the information that I wanted. Shouldn't include unnecessary details. Perfect. All right. So let's take our policy information now, and let's go ahead and put that policy information in. That we'll do that first. So these are all our fields. We're going to come back to those, but right now I just want to grab this policy information. And again, I could do this in different ways. I could use a subflow to maybe grab the policy from a policy table. Variety of ways that I could do this to make it more dynamic. In this case, I'm just going to put it in right here. Change backout. Change backout plan document policy. So I'll do that. Enter, and then I paste. And that's it. That's it, really. It's that simple. Now I need to start entering in the fields over here. So it doesn't have all the fields I want. For example, I also want change number. So I can just come up here, change number. And then now I get to put in the input. So I'm taking my skill input over here. I hit insert inputs. Oh, it's my change request. I have access to everything, every field there. Bam. Look, I just programmed an LLM, right? Fantastic stuff. Yeah, so continuing on, it's just a matter of putting in all of these different fields. Now you can see there is a quote here. There is a quote around them. You can leave that or not. It's up to you. Like the whole thing about LLMs is it's this formatting, and you're trying to put in place formatting that helps it understand based on the formatting it's experienced before. So you can see in this case, that's why it says change number colon, and then the value. But again, you don't need these individual quotes. You can just put in the value as it is. I think they're put in there just to make it easier for our AI generation. So next up, I've got change title, which is typically going to correspond to the short description. Again, I'm coming over here, short description. I don't know if you can hear it, but the garbage men are outside. They're picking up my trash right now. So fortunate, everyone gets to experience that with me as well. Now I'm going to grab the, again, I got to start at the change request. Now I'm going to grab my long description. And that's the next field I'm going to input. Whoops. And if you click it a little too much or too many times, that might happen. You can just delete it. Again, it's not an issue, not a problem. We're having fun. These are all just happy mistakes that are easy enough to sort out. All right, we're picking category. Now we're going through, change type. Definitely we can include that. It's one of those things where, maybe you're using it, maybe you're not. But it can just help us understand what, whether it's a normal, whether it's emergency, and so on. The other thing, when you're putting in these data fields, something you want to take into account is, are there fields that are being used, to be clear, are being used, so there is data in them that you might want to use in the future. And so even though in our use case, maybe I don't need the type of change, maybe I put it in here and then I can use this capability, or I can reuse it much easier. So here is my rollout plan, change request. Here's my rollout plan. Plan. Let's see which plans we got. Backout plan. There we go. So there is my backout plan. That's what we want to create. Sorry. So our rollout plan is our implementation plan. And then what else do we have? We can put in our plan start date. We can put in our change justification. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes that happens. Just scroll on back. Keep on trucking. All right, we got our change justification. I'm going to come over here again. Easy peasy, lemon squeezy. There's my justification. And then I have my implementation plan. I can also put in, maybe I want to put in my change risk analysis. Risk and impact analysis. Great. So all of our fields are there. I'm going to put in, that's enough for now. I think we can go ahead and play around and test it. So now we've got all of our fields in there. We're actually pretty much done. As shocking as it may sound, we've actually created the feature and capability just here in these few short minutes together. I'm going to save my prompt. Right? I like to hit save a lot. I don't know about you, but I do like to hit save a lot. You can see that it saved successfully. Now I'm going to hit finalize prompt. So this, you can finalize multiple versions of a prompt as you're going through the build. This just makes it easier. I'll go ahead and finalize it. That's going to make it ready to execute. Now that I've finalized it, I want to go ahead and run some tests. So as soon as I hit run, it's going to run it against that change ticket that I had put in as my example change ticket. Here it goes. It's running. And voila. All right, here is our information. All right, so here is our event manager configuration for change Oracle logistics. The application fails to start. Okay, so it's got our backout triggers, identify the original settings, revert, verify. Okay, yep, so it's got the different pieces. Then it's also included the information on the particular change. And you can see here there's some data missing, right? Because it didn't have that information. But I put in that sort of safety net where it's not supposed to put in the information if it doesn't know it, thankfully. So it's not inventing it. But I can just come back up here and I can add this information very easily into the ticket. So what I'll do again is I'll go back and update my prompt. And we'll say, yes, we're going to update it, returning it to a draft state. And what other fields and data did I need? Well, I can put in my change coordinator. So I'll put in my change coordinator. We'll call it coordinator / owner. So that it won't, so that it can't get confused, or that wouldn't maybe misinterpret that as one field or another. So again, up here, insert inputs, change request. This time I want to have, we're calling it assigned to in our system. So we've got our assigned to. And then we're also going to have our change group, insert inputs, and over there, assignment group. All right. And then going back again, we needed our change owner, our backout team. We're going to assume that it's going to think that's the backout team. We'll see what happens. But oh, yeah, our planned start date. So we can do a planned start date. Oh, and did you see there? Did you see there a little mistake? A little mistake. I had something, I double clicked at the wrong time. So it inserted two values. but I can just change that and then back here. And now I can say, here is my change planned start date. And again, going back to my inputs, everything is here, handy dandy, drag and drop. All fields are accessible to you. Now, one thing you do have to be careful about is sometimes the fields aren't really the fields, right? What are we talking about? We're talking about when maybe there's a reference field, or we're talking about when there is maybe a just like this, the assigned to or the change group. Now, watch what happens when I run this test again. I'll run the test. And I'm doing this because it's going to break. At least it should break. If it doesn't break, I'm going to be embarrassed. But what you can see here, now this is the grounded prompt. So this is literally what exactly is being sent over to the LLM. So I can see here it's sending over, change type normal. You can see there's no details there. You see this. Our group and our coordinator, those are sysids. So that's the hidden field in the background that helps us understand every record in the system. Everything has a particular sysid. And if you use something like SN utils, you can go ahead and you can easily find things like a sysid, right? Now we've got our change group and our coordinator, but it's the sysid, it's not the name. So how do we fix that, right? So we come back over here to our prompt. And now where we had our assigned to, it's going to make a little change here, right? So we're going to insert inputs, change request, which is here. Oh, that's my double click again. And then I'm going to assigned to, but then I'm going to go to their name, right? So now it's going to put in the assigned to name instead of that value. And guess what? I'm going to do the same thing on the assignment group. I'm going to come over here, do change request, assignment group, and then I am going to do name. So now again, it's capturing the correct information, the right detail, the information that we need. And then it's going to process it correctly. Again, it can't process it if we're giving it sysids, right? So we'll save our prompt. I am going to finalize this prompt again, finalize it. This makes another iteration version of our finalized prompt. And then I am going to go ahead and test it one more time just for good measure. We'll take a different record for fun. I have no idea what's on any of these. So again, a lot of this is test data. So we're not always going to get a very good output, but I did stage a record so we could get some really decent output if you'll just bear with me. So here we go. Here is our new change backout plan created. Interesting here, you can see it's calling in additional people who might be responsible. So I kind of like this. Again, it's looking at and it's considering the things related to PBX, who would be involved with it, who are the different people we need, right? So again, here is our change backout plan. So we've got it, we're ready to go. We're going to publish that. We're going to select our prompt, good to go. Now we need to make it do something, right? So we come over here to our, not our evaluations, to our skill settings. And this is where we can create the UI action that's going to run this from a change request. So I come over here and I click my UI action and I'm going to select my table change request. There's sometimes it's annoying here because you look and there's lots of different field values. Usually though, you can do, like if you put in the actual table name like this, then you can get to it. Although not in this case. Let's see. There we go. Change request. Happy days. Happy days. When I do that, create UI action, that is going to create the action for me. So I do not have to go in and manually create the code for that. All the information is going to be put up on that code for me. And this is really cool as well because I can't code. I don't know if you can. But in this case, what it does is it writes it all for you. So here is our create backout plan. Now I still have to activate it, so it's not going to run yet. But here is our script. So how does the input get into our skill? Right here. It just does it automatically, right? It sends the change request in as the input value. And it's creating this payload, and then it's going to send the payload over. And that's what it does here. It sends over the payload along with the information, and then you get your response at this point. So what we're going to do is we're going to clean things up a little bit, because this would just deliver the response in a raw format and would just show it as an alert message on screen. What we want to happen is we want it to be written into our backout plan field. And so that's what we're going to do next.
A few moments later.
Voila, this is how we fix it. I wish I could take credit for this code. Again, I'm not a coder. One of my colleagues helped me with this, but effectively what we're doing is we're writing the value into the backout plan field, right? But first, what we're doing is we're preparing this payload that we're sending to the skill. It's going to include our inputs and what capability ID we're calling and these different things. And then we get that information back. And we need to clean some of the information out of it. That's kind of what this does. This parses it. It takes out some of the code that we don't want to be there that would just make it not look nice. And then it also adds a backout plan generated by Now LLM. So effectively, we're setting this field to that value, the output, again, the output from the model, and then we do an update. And that's it. Once you have that code in place, it'll then call the skill and it will execute the skill against your particular change record. So let's see what that looks like. Let's see here for the final. Oops, I don't put a space in there. There we go. And I will look at my open changes. Again, this is just a bunch of test data, some of which I have staged to make it better and look nicer. The record that I was working with was this change the default router. Here is our change. I've staged it with lots of data. No backout plan, though. We need to generate a backout plan. I just come up here and I press the Create Backout Plan button. Again, this takes the information from the change, it sends it to our model, brings in the important context of how it should do our backout plan, pulls it all back, writes it into that field, and then saves it. And like that, now we've created a backout plan, right? It's, again, corresponds to the formatting we've told. It's providing detailed information. It's integrated, so it's pulling some of the information like who the people are from the record. It has that. Now it's created this fantastic backup plan. And this sort of thing you can do really for any of these fields. These were some other examples of skills that I created recently. You can see I created one that creates a test plan. Same concept. It takes the information provided in the ticket, takes a format, and then it writes the test plan for you. And I really think this is going to be the future of change management. We have these long text fields where we're writing in data, and we're also supposed to interpret and read it. And I really think LLMs are going to be huge in change management, in changing the way in which this process is done and really making it much more efficient. So hopefully you enjoyed this session and you found this valuable. If you have any questions, please do post or reach out.